I'm glad everyone's here. My name's Clayton Davis, Senior Awards Editor of Variety. It's a great convention going on right now. And if I knew it was the same day as this, I would have told Beyonce to come here, and then we could have like swapped, but we got things mixed up. We're gonna have a great panel here today. So before I introduce them, we're gonna go through some of the clip packages for comedy and then have a great little conversation. So you ready to see some clips? See why they're nominated? All right, cue the clips. If you guys thought that was funny, wait till the drama clips come up. It's gonna be crazy. All right, let's do something that writers love, give them attention. First one up here from Hacks, Lucia Aniello. The next one from Hacks, Paul W. Downs. One more from Hacks, Jen Statsky.
No more people pop.
From What We Do in the Shadows, Jake Bender. Also from What We Do in the Shadows, Zach Dunn. From the big old grizzly bear, Joanna Calo. And here to perform for us today, from Girls 5 Eva, Meredith Scardino. And that's it, thanks. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
How you doing? I'm gonna talk with the Hacks people first. Why do, this is for Lucia mostly, like why do you hang out with Paul so much? Like he's very funny on the show and he does like a lot of things, but he also like writes too. He's a little too talented. I think we need to like push that side. But when it comes to Bulletproof, one of the best episodes of Hacks, I think, in its arsenal, season 3. What was that writing process like? How do you guys all work together? Jen, how do you deal with Paul too? Like what is all this? It's mostly a Paul question.
I'm actually probably with Paul as much as Lucia, which is bad because they're married. Yeah, we.
I do have to tell that story. We had a set dresser who came to drop something at our house and saw Lucia, and said, "Come here. Where's Jen?" And I said, "I think at her house." And he said, "Well, what's she doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm married to Lucia." And he said, "You're always giggling with Jen." And I said, "Well, yeah, we're laughing a lot on set, but we're just friends."
I don't laugh on set. No,
But that wasn't the question. Sorry.
Yeah, you mean like how do like our actual process?
Your whole dynamic, how does it work?
Oh yeah. I mean, we people tend to think that like one of us does one thing or another one does another, but we really are constantly just talking about every single part of everything. Some people say like, it's like a 3-headed monster, but we think it's like a 3-headed, I don't know, supermodel? I don't know. I'm throwing that out there. I think it's just like we just really are so often on the same page. And I will also say like, whenever we're just like not sure about it, we just are very cognizant of, like if even one person really does have like a flag like this, maybe this isn't quite working. We just always say like, okay, well, there's a note behind that note or something. So let's just figure out something we all love together. So even though we sometimes say like, oh, in 3, it's great because you can just, 2 versus 1. But the truth is it's not actually how it happens. It actually usually is just like we really figured out. So we're all really happy and excited about something, right? Is that right?
Yeah. And we like, in a granular way, like we kind of talk before the season starts about the big 10 poles of it, all 3 of us, and then we take it to our amazing writers room and we talk about it with them. And we're really lucky that we have amazing people in that room that have helped us shape the show since season 1. And yeah, we kind of do. We don't really divide and conquer a lot, which is so stupid of us. we do like every part of it together. Every like script we're writing together, rewriting together, shooting. We're all there every day on set pretty much, unless someone has to leave for like a scout or something. And then in the edit, we're all three together.
Thank you. Jake and Zach, I have something to address with both of you. This is the penultimate season of What We Do in the Shadows. I was promised 14 seasons, and you reneged on that, so I'm very upset with you both. And
We're sorry.
Yeah. Pride Parade, another great zinger. It's almost ridiculous at times, and it's just a very heartwarming show. But in this penultimate season, I mean, are you kind of the mindset like we're just going to throw anything out here now? We're just going out in the blaze of glory. What's your process?
Yeah, I think that we've always sort of had a perspective of being like, let's just do the stupidest thing possible for every episode. But I do feel like this season 5 and season 6 that's coming out in a couple months are the stupidest seasons, which I think is pretty exciting to have a show keep getting dumber and more insane.
Yeah, the idea of Nandor going to space, it was...
I imagine a lot of people here probably haven't seen the episode. It sounds really stupid, but it is stupid.
But it was an idea we pitched back in season 2 or whatever, and then Paul Sims, the showrunner, was like, that sucks.
Yeah, there is an idea that... Because the vampires can turn into dogs, that's established at one point and never revisited. And we were like, what if Nandor went to space as like a Laika, the Russian dog?
Cosmonaut.
And then over the years, we sort of honed that into this. We just kept repeating it to Paul, our boss.
I know. And then
wore him down.
Season 5 comes along, and you're looking at the board, and you're like, maybe the dog thing's not so bad, you know? Like,
suddenly, these absurd bad ideas become our best possible ideas.
so
Like, I have a dinner reservation.
This is apropos of nothing, but I recently was thinking about animals that are sent to space, and I thought that if aliens come here and we treat them like the alien gods that could happen, but then later we find out that they're really like the turtles of the real aliens that are like on another planet, and that's what they sent first, and we're just like, yes, of course. Anyway.
That's good.
that's good.
We should try to do a season
do
7
that.
and do that. We'll steal that from Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith.
And that's for free, that idea.
Just pitching,
so thank
just
you.
pitching.
Yeah. No, this is a writer's room, technically.
Welcome to the DNC. Joanna, hi. Hello. Oh, are you hiding from me?
Oh, hi.
Oh,
No.
hi. Okay. What did Bob Odenkirk do to you that you wrote into an episode that he's going to get forks thrown at him by John Bernthal with accuracy? And in this season, there are a lot of flashback twists and turns, but we're getting a lot of insight to Carmi's past. How did forks come to be?
First of all, Bob Odenkirk really liked it. But it was a lot of things on our show just happen, which is very strange. Like, I remember we were just talking about, we were going to do it for the first season, and we had said, yeah, let's do like Christmas, and like Carmi's at Christmas, and he's sad, and I don't know, like that was sort of like an idea, that was like the beginning of an idea, and then Chris was like, well, then let's do Feast of the Seven Fishes. And I was like, oh, I love that. And I had been really obsessed with that. And I've been trying to go to a Feast of the Seven Fishes for my whole life, and no one will make one for me. And I'm a very bad cook. But it sort of just came, I think a lot of the things on our show come from these little pieces of things. A picture of something. That story about throwing the forks is a real story that someone has. It's not mine to tell, but that is a real thing that we were like, okay, we're gonna do that. And I think we sometimes back into things of like, okay, we wanna use this, what is that about? And then if you're doing Christmas, that's where you meet the mom. And obviously, you know, the mom was sort of this character that was larger than life in the first season, you know, even though she didn't exist. And so it just felt like, okay, that's what this is about. So that's a very boring and long answer, but I just think it was like, it just happened.
Thank you. Meredith, actually, this is the same room that the Paula Pell fan club meets every Tuesday and Thursday. It happens in this very room. I come sometimes because I think she's great, especially when she's talking about cocaine. I've loved Girls Five Eva. It's kind of my jam. And I always think anyone who writes for this show has to be a little cuckoo themselves on the side. And writers are very normal, not at all quirky at all. So I want to know how you got into character to really write this episode.
You mean how am I weird?
Not we can't say weird.
No.
For someone else.
I mean the thing that I think is the thing that I think is so fun about the show is you can put the real soup of life and motivations and things that happen to you, pain, whatever. The embarrassment of trying is very much baked into the DNA of the show. But then you can also step out and enjoy this kind of candy-coated girl group world and write a song called Home Alone Doorknob about female arousal. And it's and and so it's I feel it's very nimble and it's very fun, and so it's got one foot in real life, but then you also kind of get to make all the same points you would make in a drama or anything about starting over at a later age, or just the pains of middle age and all that. But you also get to kind of have fun with pop culture and have fun with these great songs and these absurd characters and stuff.
Awesome, thanks. All of you, this is going to be for anyone who wants to take this. You all are in future seasons of your show. It's not the first season. And I wanted to know, is it harder to write for seasons 2 or 3 or 5, 6, 13, as I was promised? Or was it harder writing for season 1? What is more difficult for you to do?
I'd say in some ways it gets, you've done more stuff. On a show like ours, where we were at the 6th season, but then I kind of felt like there's always more because it's such a cartoonish show. I would say it personally feels easier as it goes, which is the sad thing about ending, because it's I just figured out how to do this. But it's the more you kind of figure out the rhythms of everything, and also you can just keep, on a show like ours, pushing it and doing stuff you wouldn't have thought of in season 2.
And it's easier because the standards go down. So
In season 2, it's oh my God, that show's good. In season 5, it's actually a pretty good for a season 5.
That show's still on.
Oh my God.
It's the longest running series in the world right now, by the way.
Exactly. But people are so excited that it's even watchable to any degree. And that's huge for us.
Anybody else?
I agree. I think it gets easier. It's just more because I think also when so much is, it's hard to get a show off the ground, period. But then it's once you start to get to know your cast and their moves and oh my God, I didn't realize Sarah Bareilles was just really gifted physical comedian. She can fall really hilariously and stuff and you just find ways to write to people's strengths, and then you also get to know your cast more, and some of some real life stuff always just sort of ends up in the show. I think it's more fun and a little bit easier as it goes.
I think it's harder. I think it's so hard. I mean, in some ways it is easier because it's to give Deborah Vance, to give Jean Smart a great line. It feels like now we know her so well that some of the character dialogue is easier, and sometimes we get to get underneath the characters, and that's fun. But then, on the show we try and, the show is essentially about the grist between Ava and Deborah, and what we try and do is, as they grow together, we try and deepen the relationship, but then blow it up to reset the dynamic and reset the grist. And that's really hard, to think about new ways to do that. that will surprise the audience and also us.
And also feel different in every way, because you can't just watch the same exact dynamic. We like to shift it and change the power dynamic. And there's only so many times you can do that. So I agree with my husband, like any good wife would. No, but really, I do agree. I mean, the comedy, I do agree, though, the comedy gets more,
Yeah,
like, it's easier to write the
I was gonna say I think the jokes get easier, but the story gets harder. So look at how I'm bonding the panel.
No, that was good.
Where
Things have gotten very tense if you didn't say that.
yeah, I have to heal this rip. No, you know, like the comedy is easier because, like you said, you know your actors so well. But I do find the generating story and character turns does get harder as you go further along because you just don't want to repeat yourself.
One of our writers this year pitched very seriously, what if Carmi got a cat? And I was like, the show is fucking over.
I want to see that episode. That sounds good.
I can see it. I can see it. But it would be bad.
I'm down for a cat. You're all part of writing teams. This is actually just kind of unique that just kind of dawned on me. You're all part of a writing team. And I wanted to know, obviously, the thing a writer loves most is attention. The second thing they love is sharing credit. I wanted to know, how do you work so well together, and how does this differ from possibly other collaborations you had in the past that weren't so pleasant?
Yeah, my past writing partner, he was, me and Zach, no, we have, I feel like for a show like Shadows, in our writer's room, I feel like a lot of, like, we do work in the writer's room, but a lot of work gets done outside of the writer's room, and so oftentimes we'll go off to script with not that much in terms of an outline.
Yeah, it makes it less daunting and a little more fun. And yeah, it's good. You know, we're friends, we're writing partners. It's perfect. It's easy. There's no complications ever. We haven't looked each other in the eye in 5 years. Yeah. I'm trying to avoid.
Talk to my lawyer.
We have the same lawyer.
Meredith and Joanna, you guys are actually in the best position because your partners are not present today. So you can talk all the shit you want.
That we could leave because we're at the end.
Like, yeah, right. I mean, I like television writing is so incredibly collaborative. So like, if you want to be like if you don't want to like share credit and do all that stuff, like you got to be a novelist, I guess, or maybe write screenplays. I don't know. But like being in the writer's room is super collaborative. So it's like everybody, I mean, I always think it's kind of crazy that like one person's name or two people's name is on each script, because all our paw prints are on like every script, you know, that we do. At least the way we work is like you kind of go off and write a draft and maybe split up scenes if you're sharing credit on an episode and stuff like that. And you bring it back, and then everybody has input in the room, and then, you know, you figure out what's wrong with it, and you like gang write it together. And I don't know, it's just such a fun collaborative thing. And so it feels like everybody is your writing partner when you're in the room.
Yes, I agree. I will say, you know, Chris and I don't always write together. We sometimes do. I think, you know, for whatever reason, this one it felt really good. Like, I think sometimes there's just like a little magic of like, we happen to see it the same way. And I think, you know, we just saw it the same way, and we took different passes and built it together, but kind of leaned on each other for what we're both good at. And I think it felt, this one was easy. They're not all easy, obviously, but this one was really fun and special.
I can't believe people write alone. I'm always like, wow, that's amazing that you wrote something on your own, because you know, the show is about a stand-up. I started my comedy career doing stand-up in New York, and I found it very lonely and hard. And I started doing improv, and that's where I found my people. And writing sketch comedy and then comedy for television, being so collaborative, it was the thing that gave me the most joy. And also it made it easier for me because writing comedy, I just want to, if I can make the people that I work with laugh, especially the people that I write with, I know it's working. You know, the target is so clear. And because I have found those people that find me funny and who I find funny, it's like, I find it to be a very profound thing, but also it's, you know, it's a thing where you always want to surprise that person and impress that person and make them laugh. So in that way, I'm like, I don't know if I could do it alone. I'll try.
Do you ever do that thing that I think is like one of the most pathetic things ever, when you're writing alone and you make yourself laugh at the laptop, and then I just like, it's followed by this like extreme sadness. So it's better if there's people around.
I just did that today. I'm so upset now. This is my favorite question to ask. Your episodes are obviously so great. I want you to tell me the thing that the network said no to that isn't in the episode. I know there's stuff in there.
Okay. Well, the network didn't say no, but at the table read, we're like, we Icarus. We can't do that. It was too much. Because the theme of this episode was they go to this nostalgia party for money. Girls 5 plays this nostalgia party for money, and the rich woman who throws the party, the theme is like, my posters come to life. So all the posters she had on her teenage bedroom wall are brought to life by money, and like, you know, that's who performs there. And so we had all kinds of posters on the wall, like Girls 5 Eva, so they're there, like basketball players there, blah, blah, blah. And we had this idea for a Muppet, like a Muppet show. So we had this puppet, I think its name was like Glorbo. And the bit was that it had, when it was there, it had aged in real time. And it was an asshole. It was doing coke. Like I think it like Gloria and it did coke together. I don't know. But we did it, and we were like, okay, you know what? We have too many accessories on this episode. We gotta like select that one, and like, sorry, Glorbo.
I feel like the network should have told us not to do certain things, and they didn't. And I think it was a huge mistake on everyone's part. There's a thing, the end of the episode is like 4 of the characters sort of having an orgy technically, because 2 of them are in one character's body, and there's like a doll and stuff. But there's something that was in the script that didn't make it into the final cut, but I think that was not the network's choice, which was that this guy's face is on the back of the guy's Colin's face is on the back of Nadja's head, and they're having sex with Laszlo, and he was supposed to say he wanted to do doggy style so he could look him in the face. And so that was the logic, and that got cut for some reason. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that fucked up?
We like wanted to do this to like figure out why they cut that. If anyone has any ideas.
Literally Big Brother style censorship.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Joanna, does your answer still stand about the cat? Is the cat the answer? Carmi with the cat?
Our episode's like an hour and a half long. They didn't cut anything. They didn't say no at all.
Hacks beeps?
We really didn't honestly have any like network notes from it. I would say, I guess the only thing that was written one way then ended up a different way was the airplane scene, which you guys saw a clip of, had originally been later in the episode. It was after Deborah and Ava's big fight in the living room, but it felt like after such a dramatic scene, people didn't want to hear a decibel that loud of screaming. So it felt like it was just like you were in such a dramatic place. It kind of felt like too. You just weren't in the mood to laugh. You wanted to like cry or something. So
I will say that meant, because initially Jimmy and Kayla hug, all the people think that they've gotten engaged, and then they're about to leave, and the flight attendant says, "We've pushed back, sit down, you're going to Greece." And Jimmy says, "Well, I don't have my luggage," and Kayla says, "Well, you can wear my bikini bottoms." And so we did have to lose that.
And then
that
she also said, I took some, what did she had taken some pills. What
She
was
had
it?
taken a bunch of Xanax and a couple of
And
glasses
then
of champagne.
she downed a thing of champagne, and then she said, "Oh, I feel like shit," and then that was the end.
Yeah. So that had to go.
That had to go.
Paul, I just have a follow-up question. Is the decibel in the script, like the high pitch, like is that a note in the script, or did you just do that for you? Leave us alone. Yes.
Yeah, that's scripted. I am an actor as well, but I am a writer first, and I am very, very, very. I honor the text. So, if you're writing something and you need to think of someone, I honor the text.
Thank you. Thank you. So the past few years have been interesting. We had
What happened? What happened?
We had this little pandemic, and then we had a strike, and now everything's fine. No, it's not actually. I feel like the world's ending, but then there are times that I feel like, oh, we're going to be okay. Like the meteor isn't coming, even though I really want them to send it. But there are times when we get back into TV, when I see seasons like Hacks and Girls 5 Eva and What We Do in the Shadows and The Bear, I'm like, oh, okay, art's fine. Art's going to be fine. But during the strike, I imagine there's got to be that feeling of like, is this like the last thing I'm ever going to do? Or was there a sense of what got you through that time that then now we're back-ish?
Honestly, making Hacks was the thing that got at least I'll say me through it, because we started writing. We actually were supposed to be shooting the pilot right when I think in like
For the pandemic, not the strike, right? The
Oh, I'm
pandemic.
sorry, the pandemic.
Yeah. We were not ready.
Writing
for the
Hacks
strike.
got me through the strike.
I want to clarify. I want to clarify.
Wake up in the morning.
Okay, we were at Universal Gate 8 and you saw us
Yes,
there.
actually, let me.
The Writers
Yes,
Guild
there.
Foundation gate.
Yes,
Foundation
yes.
Gate. Those girls know. Those
Yeah.
girls know.
Actually, that is my answer. Not to jump on, but
Yeah.
the thing that got me through was, when you're in a writer's room, you get to collaborate with the people in that room, but you don't often see feature writers and writers, drama writers, and people that and it was so that time was so hard, especially because we shut down day one of the strike. We write on set, we write in the edit, we write the whole time. So we said we cannot make the show unless we're writing. And so even though we had taken a long break because Gene Smart had a cardiac issue and we had gotten back for 1 week before the strike, we shut down. But seeing other writers and being out there with other writers and talking to them is what got me through. That was the thing that really buoyed me the entire time, because we were all in it together. And the sense of solidarity people had and the sense of what it meant, what the fight was for, was so great that it's what really helped me not lose my mind, personally.
The strike felt like a pandemic.
I liked this. I mean, I was gonna say I liked the strike. No, but I did like striking with my fellow writers. Like that. Every time I went to I went to a strike. Like I what are they called? I forget.
Picket line.
Picket line. When I would go to the picket line, I would always feel better about myself. Like it felt a little bit like going to the Writers Guild Awards, because it was like long, but you also didn't have to get dressed up. But you got a lot of the same like fun small talk with your friends. It was like it was obviously a heavy time. It was hard financially for everybody, and a lot of uncertainty. But the solidarity was like it was just nice to be with writers. If there weren't those picket lines, I think it would have been so depressing.
I also think they can't do it without us. So there was just no chance that it was going to end. I mean, there was just no chance that it was over. It was going to take how long it was going to take. But I think it's so funny how often you are reminded that we aren't always treated with the respect of being the people that build the beginning and like started off. And that's a fight I just think we have to keep fighting. But ultimately, I was like, oh, this will end. They can't do it.
Yeah, I agree with all these nice sentiments. I feel the same way. Jake and I, we would always, when we're done with the picket, we would go play tennis, and that was really fun. So I miss that element of the strike, is the tennis element, and that's ultimately we could just play tennis. Like, we don't need to be on strike
They
to
still
play
have
tennis.
courts, though.
I know.
Partners? Are you doubles partners because you're writing partners, or do you play against each
We
other?
play
Is
against
that
each
weird?
other and get out some of the
Who's
tension.
better?
Who's
Get the
better?
tension.
We're pretty evenly matched.
One of
Yeah,
you is better with
I'm-
tennis story,
That's a
and
lot.
one of you is better with tennis jokes.
Is there a challengers vibe at all?
We can't find any third person to do the challenge. We're trying so hard. So
That's what tonight is about.
Yeah. I will say threes work very well. It's fun. It's fun.
Okay,
I
good to
yeah,
know.
We're looking into that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Looking at you two now, I'm seeing very Mike Feist, Josh O'Connor happening, right? Like that was a perfect analogy.
Oh,
If
see,
you
I
were-
was seeing Zendaya, but
Thank you.
yeah.
Two Zendayas.
yeah.
Well, and
Jen, did you want to add anything?
No, yeah. I mean, I think what everybody said. I felt very lucky to be a captain during the strike, and it really gave me a sense of purpose every day to like feel that solidarity. And I think Joanna's exactly right. That the thing that came out of that strike, I think the more we all talk to each other, not to be self-aggrandized, but like I think it made us stronger as writers because we all realized our self-worth. We realized they couldn't do it without us. And so even though it was an incredibly difficult, scary time, I think and I hope that everybody came out of it realizing just how important we are. And that's a really wonderful thing from it. So it was scary, and we were really eager to get back to our production because we had shut it down, but it was such an important thing to do, and to be with other writers fighting for that. I will remember that for the rest of my career as a real highlight.
Great. Final question. You're all gonna hate it because it's a question that writers don't like to answer. But you're going to tell me anyway. So I want you to look inward and tell me the thing you're most proud of in your episode that you contributed to. It's good for the drama panel. You know, I will ask you the same thing. Now you have time to think about it. But the thing you are most proud of, give yourself credit, say something nice about yourself. I know, right?
3 days later, we're still up here.
is this going to be like public?
We're in public
I don't
right
wanna,
now.
like, I don't want to be quoted as saying something nice about myself.
They didn't collect cell phones though, Joanna. So people would know.
I like a joke in the episode where when Nandor is falling from space, it's during this Pride Parade, and then It's Raining Men is playing on the thing. I felt like, I don't know, an Arrested Development style joke. I was just like, that's fun, okay, cool. Then I went about my day. Thank you.
I'll tell you a joke I wrote in that episode that I liked. It was a flirting moment between Wiki and Torque, who's like a really hot guy. And he leans in and he goes, "Do you want to know something kind of embarrassing?" And then Wiki goes, "If it's about the time when I was at Benihana and I puked and it started cooking and then the guy flipped it into his hat, no."
I'll let you guys finish because you're funnier. But I would say my bullshit answer is like it truly is such a beautiful collaboration, that whole episode. The reason people like it is I think like we collaborated on the script, then we had this amazing cast, then we had this amazing crew. Like I think there's something really special about the fact that everyone got to show up and do beautiful work. So that is my fake answer. My slightly more true answer, because I actually don't remember. You know when in a writer's room when you don't really remember who wrote something, and sometimes you're like, I love that joke you wrote, and then you wrote it, or like, or the other way around, where you write in your diary, you wrote a good joke and you didn't. But the whole like Donna, you know, like I make it nice for them, no one ever makes it nice for me, was inspired by Chris and my true love of Dorinda Medley from Real Housewives. And that is a really important reference, and the fact that we both, that was like important to us makes me very happy.
Can we do an episode in the Berkshires, please? Yeah.
Got to go to the man.
I love Real Housewives, but it's the
Me too.
weirdest thing about me.
I love.
swear.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
I think the joke I'm proud of I wrote is at the very end of the episode when Guillermo's just sitting on a float and he's just wearing a big sign that just says "gay guy" on him. I just thought
That's funny.
Thank you. It's just, that's what it is, But I like that. And I'm happy it made it onto TV. And now you all have to watch it and sit here and listen to me.
Did you say a joke or just something?
Just something we're proud of.
Something.
Okay.
They made it about jokes. but-
Yeah.
You can say anything.
Okay, I guess I would say that I feel that, at the very, very end of Bulletproof, when Deborah and Ava are in the conference room, and Deborah, thinks that Ava's there to be her number 2 or whatever, and then Ava says, it'd be too bad if they found out that you were sleeping with the chairman right before you got the show, and then Deborah says, you wouldn't, and she said, I would, wouldn't you? I think that I'm proud of the fact that I feel like, I hope anyways, that you didn't see it coming, but then once it happened, you were like, oh, of course that's what happened. And I feel like that, at least people seem to be like, I didn't see it coming. So I think to have that turn, and that wasn't me specifically, but I kind of like what Joanna's saying, like you don't know whatever. So I think that moment that people feel like it was earned, I feel like I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever top that.
Yeah, I do. It's not a cop-out, but like it's such a collaborative process that it is hard to remember sometimes who pitched what. I think like I'm proud of ourselves in general for that plane scene that you guys saw. That wasn't the original conception of what that scene would be. It used to be that Kayla was at a silent retreat and Jimmy came to find her, and the whole thing was like a whisper, which we might do someday. So
We said that was too quiet. What if we went too loud?
Yeah.
but I think we're really proud of how that scene turned out, and it's so funny, and you're so funny in it, and I think I'm proud that he told me to say that. I don't know why I'm proud of us for like pushing to keep going and being like, it doesn't quite feel right. What is a funnier version of this?
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys handle it, because if Zach was in like one of the stars of the show that we were in and I wasn't in it, and everyone got to be like, "Oh my God, Zach's so funny all the time," I would freak the fuck out. I'm like, okay, well, I write it. Like,
No,
I'd be
no,
so
it's
mad.
fine. It's actually fine. It's fine. It's fine. It goes good. It's so funny because I've been talking about this in the room that I'm really turned on by pitching on pitches, and I did not. So this goes to what you guys were saying about who knows who wrote it, and it is collaborative, but. Ava gets the job of head writer for Deborah's late night show. And she is getting new headshots for the deadline announcement, which is sure to come. And so the joke that someone else pitched was that the makeup artist says, "Oh, you're a writer? Well, you're going to wear glasses?" And she says, "No." And she says, "But you'll hold a pencil." And then my pitch on the day was, we got to see her holding the pencil. And I really like that moment in the episode.
I also really like that joke where they go, like, she goes, "Oh, you're a writer. I have to change.
Yeah.
I have to
change
start
it.
over.
Actually, you know
I
what
have
was
to start
cut? She
over."
goes, "I need to get a wet
Yeah,
rag."
yeah.
Yeah.
No offense.
That was kind of a cop out, but I'll take it. You guys sort of gave yourselves compliments. So before we depart, some of you have won Emmys before us. All of you are nominated for Emmys. It's a very great accomplishment. You can clap for that.
Wait, can you tell us what you were nominated, the 2 Emmys you were nominated for, what they were for?
Hosting Actors on Actors, PBS, Variety Studio Actors on Actors.
You were robbed.
And can I just say, and I'm going to say this publicly, I lost to Oprah. Bullshit. Bullshit.
It's like, oh, didn't she like pull herself out of contention
I'm
for
like,
a couple
come
years?
on.
Like, couldn't she have done that for
It's
you
really
that
unfair.
year? Anyway.
But it's not about that right now. But I mean, in all seriousness, I think probably everyone in this room wants to be known for their art, and you have a big piece of yourself in the history books now, and you should be proud as much as you're a writer and probably self-loathe like I do sometimes. You all did an amazing job, and you should be very proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
Nice.
And with that, we're going to take a picture, and then we are going to dismiss you guys, and then you're going to sit and cry. Yep, all right. Thank you, everyone. Comedy panel one more time. Emmy nominees. Thank you. Now that is comedy. The new group. This is the fun group. First up, from Shōgun, Rachel Kondo. Also from Shōgun, Justin Marks. Also from Shōgun, Galen Puente. From Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Francesca Sloan. And last but certainly not least, from Fallout, Graham Wagner.
No dialogue in our clip. I just noticed that.
You write descriptions, right?
Someone asked her, like, "Do you want to look at it?" I was like, "It's good." whatever they want to show is good, and it was, because the lines are all just like, like it. They're not good lines. Everyone's doing a silly voice. So just show the bomb.
Oh.
Well, good night.
How do you? Rachel, by the way, is determined that this panel is more fun than the last one. She's like determined. She has her eyes set. It's going to be very. This is personal now. So let's talk about Shōgun. That's a good place to start.
Place to start.
You can clap. That's fine. On top of being very selfish because you're nominated twice, there is because you have two nominees, two nominations. Congratulations. This show was announced in 2011. Am I correct? Am I saying that right? Like first, like ever announced, or something like the first iteration of it. It was like it went through many phases. Long story short, it took it was made very, very quickly. And we got this epic series, and the two episodes you're nominated for is the first and episode 9, which is my Anna Sawai episode. Can we?
Mine too.
Can you talk about just like tackling this story and trying to get away from the 80s version and make it all like new and poppy and up to date? I don't know. However recent you can make it. Shōgun people, how did you how did you make it feel more new than the original miniseries?
I just really want to know before we start this, which of Rachel's episodes was her favorite? The one she wrote with me or the one she wrote with Calo?
Tough stuff.
That was the greatest dodge of all time.
Yes.
And yes. So we're going to answer?
What was it? Sorry, what was the question?
The process of updating this series, because we all knew the original miniseries and you made it for today. So what was the process like?
I'm really looking for the funny answer here.
Well,
now. We're all conditioned.
Nobody rewatched the original miniseries in the writer's room intentionally. Justin asked everyone not to, except for me. So I could tell you guys if we were like getting too close to stuff. And then when we finished, we just watched some of the fun.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Like 4 times.
Oh, wow.
Just to make sure. But yeah, I think we stuck very close to the source text, the novel, instead of the miniseries. And that's kind of where we first approached it. So I think that was kind of helpful in terms of like getting an organic take from like people who didn't have the miniseries fresh in their mind.
Not an important part of it, but did you watch it on DVD, Blu-ray, streaming? Do you remember?
Legally, I feel like I shouldn't say.
Piracy laws, man. That's why we have them.
But truthfully, we none of us were actually that familiar with the original series or even the book. I mean, we had all heard of it before, but it was more the book on our parents' nightstands, as we are just the generation after. So we came to it very fresh-faced and new.
Yeah, I also don't think there was much, having watched it together, or scenes of it on our for our writers' room rap party. There wasn't much for us to take because of the approach that we were taking, which was to actually subtitle the dialogue of the Japanese characters. I think it was a different time, and they were after something different. But for us, we felt like fundamentally this was a show about translation and the misunderstandings that come from that, and the opportunity to hear one language and know what the characters are saying, and then to see another language and know what those characters are saying. That's what made our show. That's what made it fun for us to do, in so far as Shōgun can be fun. So we did.
Francesca, how many times did you watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith before you started writing this one with Donald? Actually, you collaborate with Donald a lot, and this iteration, I can be publicly honest about this. When I first heard about it, I was like, why are we doing this? And then I saw the show, and I was like, oh, okay, you can do this. This is fine. Which often happens. I'm wrong early on, and I get right later. But when you were approaching it, did you know exactly the tone? Because of all the shows that are here on stage with me, you play, I think, the most with genre bending and that walking that fine line between drama and comedy very competently.
When I was a little girl, I remember sitting in a darkened theater and watching Brad Pitt and Angelina's riveting Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and thought to myself, this is exactly what I want to write one day, and this dream has come true. The movie is so much fun, and I actually have at this point now watched it quite a bit, and the more that I watch it, there's some good shit in there that people like skate over. There's a moment when they're doing this car chase, they're talking about their wedding day, and there's this part where Angelina Jolie is talking about that day, and Brad Pitt's like, but I met your father. And it's an actor, she confesses. And I was like, that's hard. Like, I actually really like that. I feel like that essence can actually be introduced to our version of the show. But when Donald had called me about it, I hadn't seen that movie in ages. I think I saw it when it first came out, and I hadn't seen it in a really long time. Making it the way that we made it, it was a lot of recalibrating all throughout the process. Like, actually even sitting there, like, watching the clips. Such great, dramatic, talented writers up here, and I was like, do I belong up there with them? But I'm not funny enough to be with them. So I think my show really evokes that neuroses.
Who did you point at in particular over there? I just want to see.
Just that general direction.
Yeah, the
general direction of the funny people.
Graham, I have to give you props here for telling us and assuring us we can make more video game adaptations if you take your time and you concentrate on the good stuff. It can all be successful because Fallout kicks ass, man. It really does kick ass.
Thank you. I mean, but just to ask the question, is it a good thing? You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna make some weird ones. Like, they're gonna make some ones that need not be made. I mean, the Tetris drama is coming, and you're welcome.
Can't wait for Contra. So
Contra would work. Contra would be fine. Yeah.
We're doing a writer's room again. We gotta stop this, guys. No, can you tell me about? Listen, I know you were laughing before it showed a scene with no dialogue, but it's not just about dialogue. You have to describe scenes.
No, yeah, we wrote like a bomb blows it all fucking up, man. Like, we wrote that in all caps. And a little trick: you write in all caps, they gotta film it. They got it.
So can you talk about your process on focusing on the descriptions of the world that you're building, because this, if you haven't played Fallout, now all of us are gamers. This, you still need to allow an access point for the audience to come into it. So how did you work on that piece of it?
The piece you mean? Sorry, I came directly from the writers' room, so you're talking to like an empty fishbowl here. This is a disaster waiting to happen.
In the way you describe the world that exists before and after the apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of it is very helpfully, it's not like adapting a book. You've got visual references from the games, and the games span 25 years, and different people have made them, so there's different versions of it, and you've got that to start the conversation with, which is incredibly helpful because, a show like this is sort of like, how does a door open? It's like, well, that can be a debate, or we can just look through the games and be like, it's like this one. There's so many production questions on a show like this, while we're also trying to write the scripts and just make a story, that it was incredibly helpful to have that as a reference so that I could be in less conversations, as I don't, nothing against what's happening right now. I don't love conversations. And it's like you say the wrong thing and like people are taking you literally and you're like, no, not like that. And you're just like, you can point. And that's so helpful because I like to not talk. And so, that was a big part of it. And we definitely did a fair bit of picking and choosing. There's like, we tried to not have the color green. We tried not to have plastic bags. Little things like that, like semi-arbitrary rules, but if you just make up 5 or 6 of them, it becomes the aesthetic. It's very strange how that works, but what is aesthetic, but a bunch of arbitrary rules. I don't know what I've just said.
I like having conversations with you. This is nice.
Okay.
As he drinks. So something I noticed, which was very different from the other panel, you're all first season shows that are up here. Right? Crazy. Crown ain't here, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So you're starting, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I think you start a little bit on third base because there's not pre-required knowledge about these stories, these worlds, in order to access it. So, but you do have to make a great first impression. So what's harder for you? Just where did you put the most pressure on yourself? Was it to making sure that you kept the audience engaged so your shows don't stop being made after this, or was it more just trying to get the story right? That's to anyone.
The drama ones are also shot.
Yeah.
Wait till we get to the part about what we're most proud of.
I'm gonna blow my brains out. Right here, tonight. I'm gonna shoot myself in the skull rather than tell you something I'm proud of. Pride is a sin.
Graham, you go sit over there. You sit in that section. You're off the stage.
Graham was definitely that kid in school. They'd be like, I didn't study for the test, and he got 100 every time.
I can't hear a word anyone's saying. I know for our sake, we wanted it to be just not boring. You're just there's an old. If you've ever taken an improv class, there's a really horrible exercise they do where you get up on stage in the class and everyone just leaves. You just invite the audience to leave the room the moment they're bored, which is a great thing to do to a 14-year-old kid. And we just tried to always imagine that the audience just walking away from us. So we were like, hey, we have these great plans for episode 2, episode 3, and season 90 or whatever. And we're always just sort of like, we have 5 minutes at a time, and I think that was sort of, Geneva and I come from very different backgrounds. Geneva's the other showrunner is not here tonight, but she comes from a drama background. I come from a comedy background, and so we have very different instincts. So the sort of Venn diagram had to, all the house numbers I'm used to being able to do, they weren't quite good enough. and same with her, I was sort of like, what? That's too genre-y. So we were always sort of like cutting each other's stuff down to the stuff that overlapped. And it was a really fun, exhausting exercise to be like, okay, what is our shared domain here? And that was, you know, I think that was our process. I don't know if I've provided anything helpful here, but.
I also think, you know, not being boring is a great target for a lot of us. We were also confused about, or concerned with not being confusing and trying to reach for clarity because our world is, you know, very foreign to us in that it's set in 1600. It's set in a different culture than our own. So the target of clarity was for me anyway. If it was clear to me, and that's kind of a low bar, then I was, you know, then we're getting somewhere.
I feel like I'm so fortunate in the sense that the people that I work with, we've kind of become this accidental collective. And like I now understand why like Adam Sandler keeps working with his friends, or Cassavetes did it the way that he did, because it's like our target was really sort of to please each other in a way and quiet everything else down, quiet all the noise down, quiet the bigger notes even from the studios at first down, and just think like, do we fuck with this? Like, does this feel good to us? Does this feel funny or fresh or a little bit strange, or do you feel like you are emotionally invested in some way, and kind of biting those smaller bites as opposed to trying to chew this giant thing and not being able to swallow it. Why is this now sounding weirdly sexual? Anyway, we just kind of looked inwards, and we looked at each other as collaborators, and we tried to sort of look at it in this very tiny, tiny way, and that's sort of how we did it. And it's interesting now that there's getting a season 2, which we genuinely thought might not happen. We had no idea what would happen with it. Thank you. I think now it's sort of like a love note to the audience, but I think season 1 was sort of just an experiment with our friends.
Follow-up for all of you. Most of you, except for Miss Puente, is nominated for the pilot, the first episode of the show. So I always want to know, like, that first line of the show, like, how many different lines did you write? Because you're kicking it off like right then and there. When you're like, okay, I'm gonna write Shōgun, I'm gonna write Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm gonna write Fallout. What's the first thing that you prepare yourself for? Like, what? How did you get there?
Well, Justin we wrote the pilot episode for Shōgun together, and he's a real screenwriter, and I'm a short story writer. So when we went into the process together, he's like, you know, sit down, let's focus, we're gonna write, and then 20 minutes would pass, and I would say, we need a snack, I need a nap, like this is hard. And that's so. I don't even remember the first line because I was probably
you were sleeping
snoozing
when that happened. Yeah,
I was also pregnant. Okay,
yeah.
You know
that was the last time we wrote together in the same room.
In the same room.
Yeah, it's true. No, I think you're asking about like the first line we remember writing, or just the first line of the show, because I don't remember what the first line of the
either or, like the first
yeah,
line of the writing.
I actually think that there is always a moment in movies and TV where you're writing and you find, here's the voice, like this is what it is, that's maybe somewhat different from something you've done before. And I do remember that in the first episode was you've got this, because everything, at least for me, Rachel and I watch movies together and separately, amazingly. Where it happens, yeah. But the movies that we watch together are usually the movies that Rachel will tolerate, which are usually smarter movies, and they're movies that I have trouble with from time to time, or shows where as soon as I hear a British accent, I tend to go, and I'm up on the ceiling.
What language is this?
And it's but I think I'm in search of a certain immediacy to the tone, and Rachel likes costumes and nice things with people with British accents, and so we.
You're lucky that the Crown crew is not here today.
You know what? I like the Crown. I think.
And here's Peter Morgan.
But for the most part, I guess we were just looking to say that Shōgun was not going to be like, I don't know, something that felt like it belonged in a museum somewhere, and it was going to feel like there was an immediacy to it that we were after. And it started in that scene where you've got like Toranaga being dressed, so here you are in the most kind of costumey thing of all time. And his Karo walks in, Hiramatsu, and there's this moment, and he's like, so? And he says, what does he say? He's like, I hate Osaka, this place is a shithole. And it was just from that point, it was like, oh, I get it. We're going to do it this way, and we're going to create a modernity to the language that then, God help us, because we had to translate it into Elizabethan Japanese and then tell the actors how to do it. But we didn't know that at the time, so it was fine. But something that would feel like just very alive and unlike anything you'd ever seen. And I think was that like the first line in Japanese? I think it might have been. I don't know. At one point it was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jessica?
I mean, we didn't have a first line of dialogue till episode 6 or so. It was just bombs. You know, and it was a struggle. Like, what do we say now? So obviously, there was a toss-up between check please and well, that just happened. But no, I don't remember the first line, to be honest. Yeah, I truly don't remember.
I want to be Graham's best friend so bad.
I guarantee you don't.
Francesca, anything with Donald first time up?
Yeah, I mean, we initially watched a lot of really amazing things when we were writing in the room and developing the show. Like we watched like a lot of 1970s films, like Mikey and Nikki, Elaine May, and French Connection, but then we also watched the great American classics and actually Universal classics like Love Island and Married at First Sight and Love is Blind and all of these shows like this and Terrace House actually truly was a genuine inspiration. But the reason being is because we realized very early on, you know, James Bond does these things for the love of his country. Like, why are these two signing up for this ridiculous company? And we realized it's pure loneliness is actually the thing. If you really dig deep inside these characters, they're supremely lonely. And so we wanted to watch things where people seem lonely and they want to be something bigger for whatever reason, whether it's money or fame or partnership. And so we thought, what feels as bizarre as like interviewing for a reality television show outside of two floating heads talking to a machine? And that's why we came up with these sort of interviews with Maya and Donald playing John and Jane. That was originally the beginning. Then later we did the Skarsgård Asa thing after the fact, after we had already shot everything. That was a reshoot. So, but initially it was the interview of these two lonely people.
I just want to hear Francesca keep naming the reality shows: Sister Wives, 90 Day Fiance.
We did watch them all.
As you should. Ms. Puente, I actually have a question for you because Crimson Sky is keeping up the theme that penultimate episodes are always the best episodes of shows. Like that, many people just believe this because Anna Sawai is a national treasure now, and it's a lot of big shoes to fill. Obviously, you're writing with Rachel and Justin for a lot of this, but like feeling that weight of like I have to. I don't want to spoil this just in case people haven't seen, but we have to do something here that is going to
something explosive.
It's big bomb in all caps.
Crush. Sorry.
Yeah, but
that does happen.
But you have to make it, you know, believable, heartbreaking, and also like, how did you deal with that pressure of having to do something that would make Clayton upset?
I feel like Rachel, like we went into it like I was working with Justin and Rachel on the show before the writers' room started, and like Rachel and I kind of latched onto that part of the story. Like we just loved it so much, and we loved Anna's character so much that we just couldn't stop talking about it, and we kind of like spent so long getting to know her character and like eventually angling for that episode. But like I think it was so I feel like we were so focused on like doing justice to like that part of the story that we just loved so much from the book that I think it wasn't until production that I realized like, oh wow, the pressure of it is kind of intense. But yeah, there was a little bit of delusion, I think, going into the writing process, which was helpful to not be worried about it just because we were so excited to kind of get to do that.
We definitely made it so that nobody else could write the episode. We just bold-faced said, she is the writer's room assistant. I am your wife. You will let us write this episode. And we bullied and bamboozled Justin into letting us write it. It was a bad day for him.
This is largely the last 5 years of my life.
And you weren't sleeping for this one. See, it's give and take. I have to ask again, as first season shows, and this is, you don't have to tell me, and I would like you to, but when you start this process, do you just have in your head, and even if it's not something that you probably will do, but do you have in your mind what season 7 is? Do you have that idea of like, I'm doing this now, but I know in 6 seasons I'm gonna make Carmi get a cat, like stuff like that?
Absolutely not.
That's just a black hole of death.
Yeah, like my funeral. That's season 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from the start to the release, I think there was like a 4-year gap between when we started working on Fallout to when it came out. So the fetus that will be writing season 7 of Fallout, I wish him or her the best. And
growing.
Yeah, I hope they enjoy it. I hope they have fun with it.
What was the most difficult thing for you guys to write as part of your episodes, or even through this process? What were the hurdles that you faced? I feel like I'm killing you every little bit inside. Like this makes me.
Well,
you're making
we
me
are drama.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, like, the tone for Fallout was very tricky to figure out, because we were Geneva, again, drama background. She wrote Captain Marvel and Tomb Raider and big action shows, and I wrote for what I'd call like boutique television, like kind of small shows that my immediate zip code watch. And so there was this sort of tug of war, and we populated the room with there were some comedy people. We had Zach and Jake writing on the show for a bit. We had Sam Hunter, who wrote The Whale, working on the show. We had Game of Thrones people. It's this weird hodgepodge. And so the room for a long time was this tug of war of like, what the fuck is this show? And we're like, we don't know, and there's 2 of us. So it was like a very tricky thing. And honestly, I don't know that we actually settled on the tone until like the final sound mix, because it was sort of like, is this a serious moment? Is this not a serious moment? How are we handling this moment? And it was a real tug of war. And by the end of it, we just had lost all perspective. So it came out, and we're like, I don't know. But yeah, for us, it was really figuring out the tone of the show while writing the show. We didn't know what was going to work and what wasn't going to work, and so yeah, it was a lot of uncertainty. I missed the pilot process, to be honest, because then you can be like, oh, it's this, and I think the writers that we hired that worked on the show also missed the pilot process, because they're like, is it this? It was a big question mark all the way to the end.
I relate to that so much, actually. I think finding the tone of our show was it was so hard to pin it down. It kept changing. There was so much rewriting, actually, while we were shooting, all the time. And you're trying to do so many things at once already, and then you're rewriting things. A few things are kind of magical when that happens, when you don't know what you're doing. Like, accidents end up informing things in this really beautiful way. And for instance, Maya and Donald's chemistry, we knew we wanted it to be them, obviously, but we didn't know how it would manifest on screen. And very quickly, while we were shooting, we learned that the magic between them and the chemistry between them was making fun of each other and making each other laugh. And we realized, that's what's sexy about these 2, and that's what intimacy looks like for these 2. So we would start rewriting things to give more room for that in scenes, and to make sure that was this anchoring, returning point for the 2 of them. So that was like the love relationship stuff. But then there was also like, you know what? It actually is really fun to blow shit up. Like, it actually is satisfying when you actually get to do that. Maybe we're a little bit too sleepy. Maybe we should dial back down some of the pretentiousness and actually have a little bit more of these popcorn fun moments to then bring us back to those quiet moments of two people in bed talking about their day. Even if their work day is killing someone with a machete, it allows you to have those moments in a different way. So yeah, finding the tone was a constant battle.
Yeah, I think we struggled. I was thinking about the whole writers' room, with the awareness that this was going to be a show that would be largely read on screen, and that there was a contract with the audience that said, if you're going to invest time with us, that we're not going to make you read too much. And I don't mean that. Well, that is hard, but it takes your eyes off of the faces of your actors. It takes your eyes off of the emotional experience of the story, and we had to craft a certain volume and standard of dialogue that would be somehow, when the characters spoke in Japanese, something that, we called it the dive that your eyes do as you go like that we could minimize that, and we could do that at the right moment so that you're not taking your eyes off of the characters. And I think that was something that took us, we're still trying to figure it out in season 2, how to do it, but it's like you can't pretend when you're doing something that's subtitled, you can't pretend that you're, telepathically beaming these words into the audience's head. You have to be aware that the space you're creating is one that is read. That's always the hard part of Shōgun, and deciding what words belong down there and what words belong in English.
What was that in season 2 that you're doing? Like, what was all that?
Don't ask me. I'm happy to tell you everything we're doing in season 2.
I would also add that, it's kind of not a hurdle because I feel like it's also one of our greatest assets, but the history in the show and the research was, it informed everything about the show, but it was a process of learning how to get the right information about a period of time where it's a very turbulent time of civil war. Not everyone was writing things down, and if they were writing things down, it was in archaic feudal Japanese that very few people can read, only a select few historians, who we were very lucky to find one 2 years in.
No, it wasn't that long.
A year in.
Yeah, a year in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But during the writer's room where we didn't have one, that was difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of sleepless nights trying to Google how people went to the bathroom, and you can imagine they weren't writing that down. But yeah, I think it was something that really made the show better over time, obviously, but was a continuing process of every little detail of how do you tie this knot. And it's okay, that's a day of research just to figure that out in production.
We did learn, though, how people go to the bathroom in feudal Japan. After season 1 was done, we just went to Japan on a research trip, and with one of our historians, and we're at this castle.
One.
Yeah,
She's mentioning
Frederick.
just the one.
and so we're at this castle, and they mentioned this tray that you sit down in and you drop it in the tray, and they can pull it out the other side of the wall. And we were so into this tray at this castle, and it's the Shōgun producers are here, and they're doing, and all they want to look at is where the people shit. That's their only thing.
But don't forget, it was also a box in which the hole that you shit in is off-centered because you need to lay your sword down.
Yeah,
on
they
the
think
side.
of everything.
They thought of everything. It would be great for purses these days, but it was off-centered. It was so cool.
If I may, so there were 10. No, we're done talking about shit. There were 10 scripts or whatever, 500 pages of scripts written. Callan wrote an instruction manual for this show that read like stereo instructions, that was 960 pages long. We printed it in 2 volumes to make sure everyone knew how much work had to go into getting any detail right.
I will also note that was the research we used in the show.
Yeah.
Not the bathroom stuff that didn't unfortunately make it into season 1.
That's the opening for season 2.
That is the opening.
We definitely just got
Yes.
the season premiere episode.
Expect
It's great.
a lot of bathrooms.
See, you still gave it to me anyway. It was good. All right, we're down to the final question. The one that Graham has been waiting for all day.
We'll miss you,
Get
Graham.
ready.
What are you most proud of that you brought to your nominated episode? Or
I honestly, I was proud to have in the first episode all the stuff about incest. I thought that was a real observation about what life in a vault would be like. To be talking about hey, there's some incest here. I'm also proud that I let the writer's room talk me out of a fun character named Doug Roberts, is the hyphen, who is a product of 200 years of incest, because we were like, Carson Mel was like, buddy, you really want to cast that? And I was like, all right. And I just went into the script and cut all of Rob's lines. And I'm a better man for it, I think.
All right, I'm gonna pitch something right now. We have Roberts, the Muppet that Scardino was talking about, and Carmi's cat, all in one episode, just in feudal Japan, taking out a tray, taking a poop.
That's impressive.
See? I'm a writer. Go. Francesca?
Third Emmy.
Yes,
Here.
right.
I feel like you asked me this once when we had a different panel, but there were bright lights in my face, and I dissociate with bright lights in my face because of my past with my criminal record. So I don't fully remember exactly what I said. Some people don't know if this is a joke or not, which is great. I think honestly, I'm most proud that we made the show how we wanted to make it. We didn't know what that was. There was a lot of up and down, but we ended up making something in the way that we wanted to. And at the end of the pilot, it's dedicated to my father, who actually passed away while I was shooting the show. I had a newborn baby, my one and only, my son, and everybody kind of carried each other through it. We're so lucky that we get to write stories for a living, like dumbest job in the world, so lucky to get to do it. But it was really hard, and we actually made something that ended up being out there, and my dad would have been super proud, so I'm proud of that. Yeah.
There's a scene in Shōgun that I really love because so much of the show was adapting this novel that we were sticking quite closely to and like this amazing source material and finding like what we loved about it, and then so much of it was research and what was dictated by history. And then there's a scene in our episode that I feel like is so reflective of just like Rachel and I and the things that we loved about it that like we didn't take from the book and we didn't take from history, and it was just really nice to have that scene that just felt we were very like free to play with, and it was with these two female characters that we really loved, Mariko and Ochiba, and we got to kind of thread their relationship that wasn't in the book into earlier episodes of the season, and like watching that grow, like that was just my favorite, I think, collaboration moment that like watching it back, it still makes me very like proud to have worked on, because it was a long 5 years of working on this show, and that like scene I think is like a really good reflection of all like the work we put into it.
I was trying to punt by thinking of the things that each Rachel and Callan did that I was really proud of. But as soon as I pick something that I'll say that Callan did, then Rachel will be like, no, that was actually me. And then Rachel will say, that was actually Callan. And so I don't. It was a long 5 years. Like we were up there for a very long time. I guess I just similarly echo the sentiment of we really got a lot of support for this show, and we had no business getting any support for this show. I don't think we had at any point knew what we didn't know as we began this process, and it was a long process of getting hit in the face with all that you don't know, and then recovering in the most humble and just, in a way that like everyone on the crew had to do, which is just to really kind of zero out and listen to the world that they're in and the culture that we're trying to reflect fairly and authentically. And I think Rachel Callan set a standard for that, up there in Vancouver because of their capacity to just listen, and so I was really proud to witness that. I'm really terrible at that, so I really appreciate that. You can't claim that. See, I lumped you in together, so you both can't say that the other did it. So there.
It's kind of weird, but it's fine.
You're closing us out, Rachel.
Oh no. Well,
not that.
Sorry, I took the diplomatic answer.
No. I was probably gonna say something similar, but I'll just say that as I was saying earlier, I'm a short story writer who's trying to be a novelist, and I've only ever written very, very alone. So those moments in which I make myself laugh and then I descend into deep, dark sadness, it's often. And but to get to venture into TV briefly, 5 years, like this, it wasn't meant to happen for me, and I experienced what the funny section was talking about. Collaboration is exactly true. We reached a point in production that it was so hard for so long, and the chaos meter was off the charts, and we're building this car as we're driving it, and the parts were falling off, and we're screaming at each other, and we're okay. And I'll move on. The point is that we reached this moment in production when I realized that everybody, from Callan to Justin to myself to the cast, the crew, the caterers, everybody was kind of buzzing with excitement for getting the opportunity to make something that none of us could have made on our own. And we were just getting that first sampling of, oh my God, we're doing we're doing that thing that is extra special, and it's such a treat. And so I'll just say I'm most proud to have gotten to work with these two and the other 3,000 people who were on the show.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to end with two things. First thing, speaking on behalf of me, I'm just going to say the word register, whatever that means to you, you just do that. And then two, I think you're also the fun section. It was great. Graham, let's hang out, man. Like, let's just hang. You're the best.
I would make you so sad.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, our Emmy-nominated shows. We're going to take a picture, and then we're going to go eat and drink. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton.